I think it's probably a generational thing. If you were around for like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, maybe not though. I feel like I'm a part of the Resident Evil generation. Being a 90s kid, you know, experiencing Resident Evil, it was the craziest, scariest thing I'd ever seen in a video game before. Um, the movies with Mila Jovovich were fine. Really just, in a lot of ways, they felt like, kind of zombie movies wrapped in a Resident Evil cloak, but they were actually fine. And I think now that more and more like garbage Resident Evil content comes out, the more I'm like, was it that bad? Like, was it that bad? And now we know that this new Netflix Resident Evil is probably the worst Resident Evil in history, the worst Resident Evil property ever made, and which is surprising because they made sure it was super woke. Not even the critics liked it, with a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience score of 22%. It is one of Netflix's lowest rated originals in history. Who could have foreseen this coming? Because Resident Evil has a long and illustrious and like great video game history. It's like Capcom doesn't care about who gets the movie license, and they just let them be terrible. It shouldn't be this hard to make a Resident Evil movie. I mean, I still look back fondly. I don't know if it holds up. I'd probably have to watch it again, but like Silent Hill felt like a pretty good Silent Hill movie, or like video game movie. The original Mortal Kombat felt okay. I think obviously Sonic, I think, was very, very good. Both Sonics were very, very good renditions of the character. It's not impossible, but for some reason with Resident Evil, they just continue to give the license to whoever the heck they want, and it's an abomination. A woke backfire of Netflix proportions. Sponsored by and brought to you by the amazing people at Meta PCs. Check this out. Huge shout out to this video sponsor, Meta PCs. Look, you've been around, you know that I've been talking about Meta PCs for a very long time. In fact, it's the primary computer I use. But it's not just because they're a sponsor. It's for so many more reasons. They have fully customizable, configurable PCs and all the hardest to find parts in stock and ready to go. They also have ready to ship PCs ready for you today. Here's a couple reasons why I like Meta PCs. First and foremost, it's veteran ownership. Meta PCs is a veteran-owned business. One of Meta's owners has served both in Afghanistan and Iraq and received a Purple Heart for his service. Meta also employs military veterans in Meta's operations center and also provides systems to veterans going back to school to help them re-enter the workforce all across the United States. They offer financing. It has 100% US-based sales and support. And when you receive your PC, it's ready to go right out of the box. You don't have to get complicated and set things up. You just plug it all in and you're ready to rock. And on top of that, Meta PCs is offering you, my viewer, a huge discount when you use the link in the description or you use promo code TheQuartering. If you use my code at checkout, not only do you save money, but you support my content and a company that will not bow to cancel culture. So maybe you're not ready to pick up a new computer today, but when you are, remember to go to metapcs.com and use promo code TheQuartering to support me and to save money. And everybody wins. Obviously, you might not be in the market for PC right this instant, but when you are, Meta PCs have stood by this channel. I use their tower. I use their laptop. I recommend it to friends and family, and I don't give them my promo code. It's a super solid company that I stand behind 100%. Resident Evil, 53%. Audience score, 22%. Resident Evil has some of the worst audience scores in Netflix history. This from, a woke-leaning Paul Tassi. I like Paul. We clash every once in a while, but he is more of one to be swayed by woke propaganda than, say, like Eric Kane. I don't know if he's still there anymore, but if you are going to do a video game adaptation of a beloved franchise, you better make sure you do it right. Critics have not been the most kind to Netflix's Resident Evil series. It currently sits at a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, but in case you thought this was going to be one of those situations where critics hate something, but the quote, true fan TM loves it, the opposite is true. Audience scores are horrific for Resident Evil, some of the lowest I've ever seen for a major show on the service. The audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 22% and a 3.4% on IMDb, both deeply terrible on a level rarely seen. To compare this to other poorly received Netflix shows, famed superhero Disaster Jupiter's Legacy has a 41% critic score with a 73% audience score. Space Force, the controversial comedy, has a 64% critic score and a 77% audience score. Hate Backs Off, which frequently appears on worst Netflix shows ever, has a 50% critic score and a 76% audience score. One comparable show is a CG-based Resident Evil series on Netflix, Infinite Darkness, but it also scored higher with 50% with critics and 39% with audiences. I'm telling you, I have not seen another major series on Netflix come close to these terrible scores. Now, of course, we talk about review brigading. I will say up front, we cannot rule out some level of racist review brigading here. The show's 4 lead actors are actresses of color. This is Paul Tassi coming out. Oh, Paul. The critics hated it. The fans on Rotten Tomatoes hated it. The fans on IMDb hated it. Twitter hated it. Everyone's dunking on it. But race. Now, why is race an issue? Well, because there was a big race swap in the show. Resident Evil showrunner teases greater mystery behind swapping Wesker's race for the Netflix series. The reason is more complicated beyond Lance Reddick wanted to do it, and you just don't say no to Lance Reddick, which is fair. Now, Lance Reddick is an excellent actor. As far as I know, has been relatively controversy-free. And again, I've always said with a lot of these like race swap, gender swaps, you can't blame the actor for taking the job. And like, only the most ultra hardcore fans of Resident Evil will really remember what the original character, what Wesker actually looked like. We also know we've come to be used to, prepared for this level of we need to fix something that wasn't broken in the first place, but that's what Netflix does. They fix things. But oftentimes, at least in my opinion, I just talked to somebody on a stream about this. I truly don't think that like race swapping or gender swapping a particular character is inherently bad. I think that there are situations where it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like say having a white guy in Wakanda or a black Viking. Well, Wakanda's not really based on a true place, but Vikings are. You know what I'm trying to say. Like there's really no excuse for having a black Queen Elizabeth or whatever on the BBC. Other than, I don't know. Unless it's an alternate universe or something like that. But I assume that not in every single case is it like, but what if they were black? But what if they were a woman? I sure hope not. But I think in some cases that is the case because you see a lot of shows that are like, touting how diverse they are. And they're just terrible from top to bottom. Bad writing, bad editing, bad CG, bad. But diverse. Perfect example would be Batwoman. The first Batwoman was gay. Then the second Batwoman actress was gay and black. And still, the show was awful. And there was a huge contingent of people that just blamed, people didn't like her because she was LGBTQ, and people didn't like her because she was a BIPOC. And no, the writing was terrible. Like, the CW is known for having garbage writing. I mean, Supergirl, like, rolled out a 20-year-old Leroy Jenkins meme. I mean, the show in itself is, like, extraordinarily diverse. The cast, that's, like, on purpose. You know what I mean? Like, that's obviously on purpose. You can go all out on diversity, but you still have to have a good show. And at the end of the day, the show sucks. It's just not good. There's a lot of quote-unquote woke. I mean, Vice says Netflix's Resident Evil is Gossip Girl with zombies. It's campy, nonsensical, and almost has nothing to do with Resident Evil. It's also fun. You know who wrote this? Gita Jackson, washout from Kotaku. Essentially saying, like, well, the show sucks, but it's fun. as if people have unlimited amount of time to sit around and do nothing all day. Like, when I watch a show, it has to be like, I have to have had some anticipation for it. That's why sometimes I rewatch X-Files, because I'm like, I know the first 4 seasons are good. I only have a little bit of time for entertainment, and I don't want to screw around with something that sucks. Netflix, I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. Like, Critical Drinker writes, Resident Evil on Netflix may be the most boring, pointless garbage I've seen all year, with absolutely nothing in common with its source material. It's so bad, it makes Mila Jovovich movies look like absolute works in comparison. I mean, it's absolutely an abomination. 22% average audience score. Like, nobody. The worst Resident Evil adaptation I've ever seen. My God, so slow and so boring. Worse than Obi-Wan, and that's saying something. Hopefully there won't be a next season. A rotten, brainless, decomposing horde of men-eating abominations that would be less disgraceful and insidious than its show. The bad writing, amateur directing, and terrible production managed to achieve something truly astonishing. To make Resident Evil fans yearn for a real-life apocalypse. I mean, none of these reviews, by the way, are like, you know, oh, woke, it got woke. It's just, it sucks. That's what happens. That's what Resident Evil fans are doomed to. We're just never going to get anything good Resident Evil. Anytime you see it, any kind of adaptation of Netflix, just run for your life. Absolute, predictable, terrible failure. Hope you enjoyed this video, though. We'll talk to you again real soon.